So this happened since you woke up, Russia announcing a multi-day ceasefire, but for next month. Secretary of State Marco Rubio pushes Putin to make a deal with Ukraine following President Trump's meeting with Zelensky at the Vatican. Rubio says the chances of sealing a deal are still very much up in the air.
The president has put out everybody you can imagine, Ambassador Witkoff, myself, the national security advisor, the vice president, been involved and engaged in this effort to bring the two sides closer so we can have path to peace. There are reasons to be optimistic, but there are reasons to be realistic, of course, as well. We're close, but we're not close enough.
Joining us now, retired General Jack Keane. He's a Fox News senior strategic analyst, and great to have you here. Sir, I just want to play one more thing from President Trump on what he wants from Putin.
Want him to stop shooting, sit down and sign a deal. And we have the confines of a deal, I believe, and I want him to sign it and be done with it and just go back to life.
What punitive action are you considering taking against Russia?
Well, I have a lot of things I can do. I'm not looking to do it, but I have a lot of strength.
General, you think this is a critical week?
Yeah, I pretty much do, because I think the patience is running out with the president and his team dealing with Putin. I mean, let's give the president some credit here. I mean, this is tough. And there's not another leader in the world. Name one, it escapes me who it could be, and the country that could have started this initiative to stop this war. And the same thing with the nuclear issue dealing with Iran. A lot of credit here, but tough stuff as well. Yeah, it is a critical week. Because we're running out of patience. And I think what it really comes down to, do both sides really want a peace deal? And if in their heart of hearts it's really only on my terms, then we're not going to get one. But what's the evidence they want a peace deal? Well, let's take a look at Zelensky. He has said he wants a peace deal. His people agree with him. He made concessions to go to a 30-day ceasefire after President Trump put pressure on him by withdrawing military and intelligence support. And after arguing with the president in an incredible, poorly judged meeting where he took the president on over issues in front of an international media as opposed to dealing with it in private. So that's in the past. I'm convinced that Zelensky does want a peace deal. Now, there's things that have to be negotiated in terms of security guarantees that are going to be challenging for sure, and territorial issues. Putin, what's the evidence with Putin? Well, he rejected the 30-day ceasefire. He went to an energy ceasefire that he immediately began to violate and continues to violate, and he accuses Ukraine of violating it. My team at the Institute for Study of War has no evidence to support the claim by Russia that Zelensky has violated that ceasefire. And the other thing he's done, which has certainly caught the president's attention, which certainly undermines the idea that he wants peace, is he's targeting and increased the volatility of targeting civilians, which in itself, if there's no military associated with that, it is a war crime. He has convinced the president's personal envoy, Steve Witkoff, that he wants peace, and he's conveyed that message to the president. But there's a healthy dose of skepticism now, I'm assuming with Witkoff, with the president, with Rubio and his team, as to whether that is a fact or not. So I think this week they're going to make some decisions based on the evidence, whether Putin is sincere or not. And if not, then likely apply some pressure to get Putin to the point where he will negotiate some peace terms realistically.
Wow. So Putin's calling for a 72-hour ceasefire in a week and a half from now, May 8th through 10. Ukraine just said, do it now if you're serious about it. I thought the images from the Vatican were extraordinary over the weekend. Just seeing Trump and Zelensky sitting there together, and at one point Macron coming over to talk and Trump waving Macron off. Listen, let's hope for the sake of the world that something comes from that meeting, General. And thank you for your time today. Critical week, as you point out. We'll talk soon, okay?
Thank you, General.
Thank you. Jack Keane. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
Great talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.